Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of Leicester, and welcome to a lightning episode of our talk show. I'm coming at you live from Ramadan FM radio on DAB, YouTube and Facebook. Today we have two distinguished guests joining us who are shaping the future of our education here in Leicester. I'm your host, Saiful Chowdhury. I'm thrilled to introduce you to Brian Killeen.
Good afternoon, everyone.
And Jason Smith.
Good afternoon.
These two are visionary principal of our two local secondary schools in our vibrant city. Brian, you are from which school?
Moat Community College.
And you're a principal there?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Yeah. And Jason is?
Principal at Judge Meadow Community College.
Right, so just to give you a bit of a background of what our show is about, let's just start off with my little introduction. Education has been a cornerstone of progress, and these are two leaders at the forefront shaping our young mind, fostering innovation and creating leaders of tomorrow. Brian and Jason bring a wealth of experience, passion and dedication to their respective institutions. In today's conversation, we will delve into the challenges and triumphs they have encountered in their role, their vision for the future of education, and the transformative impact that they are making in the lives of their students. Their commitment to excellence and their unwavering belief in the potential of every student is truly inspiring. So, whether you're an educator, a parent, a student, or simply curious about the evolving landscape of education, this is the conversation you won't want to miss. Get ready to be inspired, get ready to be motivated and enlightened as we explore the remarkable journeys of Brian and Jason, the invaluable contribution they are making to Leicester's educational landscape. We hope this conversation will prove especially useful for the Year 6 parents who are listening. So if you are listening, you must be thinking about which school you are sending your child to. Because you know what, let's face it, in this local area of Leicester, you are spoiled for choice. Some of you will be making quite straightforward choice, but some of you may be torn between the many different choices of the school around us. I think we in the heart of Leicester are extremely lucky to have the choices of schools that are in quite close proximity to each other. So if you have any question, please WhatsApp us on 077 488 55055 or call us on 0116 482 2086. And if you've got any questions, our guests are more than happy to answer them. So without further ado, let's dive into this insightful conversation with two extraordinary individuals who are shaping the future one student at a time. So welcome Brian and Jason to our talk show, where we celebrate the change makers and the visionary of our community. So I'm going to first go over to Brian. Please introduce yourself and tell us about your teaching career right from the start.
Right, thank you for that introduction, Saif. I hope to live up to your expectations. I've been a teacher in Leicester for 36 years. I've been principal at Moat Community College for the last 8 years, which is an absolute privilege. I'm a maths teacher by trade and did that for many years. I was head of department at Judge Meadow, actually, head of maths, a job that I loved, and gradually moved into senior leadership in schools. And as I say, 8 years ago, took up the role of principal at Moat Community College, which is a fabulous school and a fabulous community that I'm incredibly privileged to serve.
Yeah, absolutely. Full disclosure here, Brian actually used to be my head of department. So Brian actually used to know me when I first started teaching, so I consider him my mentor, taught me how to teach, taught me how to do a good job of it, I think. Right? But yeah, so moving on to Jason. Jason, do you want to just tell us a bit about your journey?
Yeah, so I've been in teaching about 28 years. I started as a NQT. I'm an English teacher by trade. I started in London. I'm a Leicester boy, but I started my career in Feltham in West London near Heathrow. I was at that school for 7 or 8 years in a variety of different roles, mostly English teacher, head of year, assistant principal. I came to back to Leicester, went to a school in Birstall, Longslade Community College as head of English. That is now the Cedars Academy, joined up with Stonehill. At some stage somebody was silly enough to make me head there, and around about 5 years ago I came to Judge Meadow to be principal as part of the Lionheart Academies Trust team. I am incredibly proud to be principal at Judge Meadow. I'm a city boy, I work in a city school. I couldn't wish for anything more.
Yeah, I mean, this is me knowing Patrick. I think you guys also spent some time living in the heart of Highfields at some point in your life. Isn't that right? Brian used to live on Bartholomew Street at one point, right?
I did, yeah. The first 2 years that I lived in Leicester, I lived on Bartholomew Street, and I did my first teaching practice actually at Moat Community College.
Oh, did you? I didn't know that.
Yeah, in 1987 it would be.
So just to say, I was about 7 years old at that time.
Yeah, so it made me feel old.
Yeah.
I lived in the community and enjoyed those times. I mean, I think the community's changed significantly since then, but I enjoyed those times, and I used to walk down when I was doing my teacher training at Moat, and never really dreamed I'd be back there as principal one day.
That's crazy. And you also, I understand, you also used to live in Highfields. Well, you told me like for about 6 months.
Upper Charnwood Street.
Upper Charnwood Street is
So
classed as Highfields, yes.
I lived on Upper Charnwood Street when I was about 19, after I just left home.
Yeah.
For a year in a rented house with some friends, and it was.
That must have been quite an interesting experience, shall we say?
Not for the radio.
Not for the radio. But what I'm trying to highlight here is that, I mean, I'm just saying from a personal perspective, it's like parents and students, they have this perception that us teachers, we don't really get to know the community, we don't know the community, but they actually don't understand that's part of who we are. We actually grew up in the community, we actually have closer links than they actually imagine, right? So I just wanted to say out to you guys that, you know what, our leaders here, they know our community very well, they know the streets that we roam around, right? So I'm going to go on to the question is that the perception is that principals are walking around the patrolling corridors and deal with issues and situations that arise. So Brian, would you like to give us a description of your typical day in the life of a principal?
Yes, of course. I mean, we do spend a lot of time patrolling the corridors, and I think that vision or that presence around the building is incredibly important as principal for both staff and students. I like to be on the gate in the morning, welcoming the students in. I like to be on the gate in the evening when we say goodbye to them. And in between that, I spend a lot of time on corridors in lessons, checking that things are okay, but reassuring staff that the senior team are available to them, reassuring children that there's plenty of adult presence in the building, lunch duties, break duties, that those things are incredibly important to me, and I think probably all principals would say the same. A typical day is quite difficult to describe because they're all very different. I teach a couple of lessons a week, so I have a couple of days when I teach, and that's incredibly important to me. I really enjoy that. I'm not interrupted, and I can sort of do what I started, where my career started, so that's very important. But if I took Friday for example, I had an online meeting with some other heads in the city, and that was part of the Educational Improvement Partnership. So that was a group of schools working together to improve outcomes across the city. So I was in that meeting. I had a meeting with the head of English, and we talked about our exam results. I visited the classrooms to watch 2 new members of staff teach, and it was very heartening. They were both excellent, so I was very happy about that.
That's brilliant.
So they're all different. It's difficult to sum them up, really.
Yeah, but I also like the fact that you said that you're still teaching, right? Even though you're like the boss of the school, you still got your toes in teaching, and I really like that.
Yeah, I enjoy doing that. I think it's a nice message to staff and to children, and I get to know a couple of groups of children very well, which also helps. So yeah, I enjoy that, and I thoroughly enjoy that aspect of my job. Yeah. Yeah,
brilliant. And going to Jason, I also know you teach as well, right? And I know your classes they really enjoy your teaching.
I hope they do. Yeah, I teach a couple of lessons a week. It's not very much, but I think, as Brian says, it's important to understand what you're asking other people to do, even though you've done it before. I think, especially during the pandemic, being a head teacher that taught meant you, especially when we were asking people to teach on Teams and do things online and hybrid lessons, it can be quite easy to ask people to do those things when you're not doing it yourself. And I think I like to teach, but I think it's important. I like to think I'm high visibility. I'm not a head teacher that sits in my office too much. I try to be out and about around the school.
I can vouch for that.
Well, I've got my watch. I'm counting my steps now. I think without doing any exercise, I can do 10,000 steps a day at Judge Meadow. But,
I can vouch for that because every time I try and find you, you're not there.
Well, there's a rationale in that as well. But no, I think it's important to be high visibility. I think it's important to lead by example. I think it's important that staff see you out and about, and young people. And like I say, the answer to that question, what's a typical day like, is in many ways the joy of the job is that I'm not too sure there is a typical day. It's almost like every day is. So last week, one of my days was buying a tree from a garden centre in order that we could have an act of remembrance for a member of staff that passed away last year. And you know, the kids were great, and it was a really respectful day and an act of remembrance and something that was quite profound and sensitive. And I didn't expect to be doing that when I woke up on Thursday morning.
Absolutely, because, you know, so let's get down to it. So a typical day, there is no typical day for a principal. Every day is different, and it has its different challenges, and I think the skills that you guys have as inspirational leaders that allows you guys to adapt to those challenges and the experiences that you have as well. And so what happens behind the scenes that, you know, parents and students or teachers maybe that are not aware of? Right, so that's to you, Jason. So we're talking about stuff like strategic vision, planning, what the school looks like.
I think you spend a lot of time planning the year ahead. So hopefully, when we come back to school on the first week last week, that sense of what we want to achieve this year, that plan for the year, the organisation, the systems are in place because you've done a lot of that work over the end of last year, over the break. Putting your plans into place, but alongside the day-to-day being out in school, checking things are okay, being high visibility, there is another aspect where you need some time to think, and you need some time to chart what it is you're trying to achieve. And what we're trying to achieve is, you know, really well-run school with excellent behaviour and a good attitude to learning, and obviously ultimately that kids achieve their potential.
Do you want to say anything to that, Brian? Add to that?
Yes, I mean, it's very similar to what Jason said. There's a lot of planning goes on behind the scenes, and that runs through the year because you respond to events and you have to plan a response. And it's important that that's done in a considered manner, which doesn't mean that leaders in the school need time. They need time to talk, to meet, to discuss what to do next. There's an awful lot of work that gets done around safeguarding, which is behind the scenes, and that's incredibly important work. And it's obviously highly confidential, but that work occurs in you know, every school every day as we become more and more attuned to what risks children face. So that's an incredibly big area of work in the school as well.
I mean, going back, touching upon what you said in your previously about the pandemic, I bet, you know, that was an extremely challenging time. I mean, I wasn't part of the leadership team at that time at Just Meadow, but I can imagine the challenge that you guys were facing, and, you know, something that has never, you know, our nation has never faced before. Your whole entire school, something that we definitely don't want to repeat, do we?
Absolutely not. I mean, it was an incredibly difficult time, a worrying time, as to how we'd come through it and what the children would be like when they got back in terms of their education, their mental health, and all the rest of it. And I honestly don't think we're fully recovered from that.
Absolutely not. I agree with you. And I think even now, I'd like to also add something that your vision and your strategic planning is also taking into account of all the effects of the pandemic still, even to this day.
I think, and not just teachers, but I think professionals across this city in terms of, you know, whether it was NHS, education, I think that the way people performed during the pandemic in terms of what they did, how they responded, you know, obviously I'm talking about Judge Meadow staff, but I'm not really, I'm talking about staff across the sector. It was a fantastic, you know, in terms of what people did to respond to that, to try to support young people. I agree with Brian, I don't think we're over it. I think there are still issues. You know, we've still got attendance levels are not back up to where they were pre-pandemic. We need children in school, we need to support them. I suspect if something like this happened again, we probably wouldn't shut the schools so quickly, but I just want to pay tribute to public sector workers during that time.
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. All the public sector workers who have been working on the front line, you guys are the real hero, because you guys kept the country running and looked after everybody, and, you know, especially the delivery drivers, make sure that Tesco's was, and as they were stocked up with toilet rolls, so let's not go down that road. But no, you know what, it was a very challenging time, and I think, Brian, what you were talking about, safeguarding, for me, it's like as a head of year at that time, I was thinking about, the students who are vulnerable and making sure they're safe. And it's amazing how much the emphasis and almost like the response we were giving to school to make sure that all these children, even though they were at home, we made sure that they were all safe and they were still accessing their lesson on time and things like that. Safeguarding team of all schools around the country, they need to be praised during that time as well, right? So I want to go to another question now, which is, who decides how your school looks like, right? What's the vision of the school? Is that a personal vision or something that's collectively agreed? So I'm going to ask this to you, Brian.
It's collectively agreed because it's got to reflect your community, it's got to reflect your children. So it's a collective agreement on where the school should go and the vision for the school. It's obviously very informed by the professionals in the school, and the head plays a central role in that. It's also informed by the governors. Your governors play a key role in developing that vision, and they're from the community in many cases, so they ensure that the community have a voice in that vision. Our vision would be similar to Jason's, really, for the school, a school that looks after its children really well, is a safe and happy place, produces good outcomes in all respects, exam results, careers, personal development, in all those areas. But exactly how that vision is articulated and developed, it's a village. It's the community. It's that thing. That saying is that it takes a village to raise a child.
That's right. Yeah.
Everybody inputs into that vision and influences it.
And I think everybody coming together. And I remember talking to you, Brian, when you first became head of Moat, and I remember you went out there. You also met various people in the community as well. Essentially, you were doing your homework, just like what you did as well, Jason, when you came to Judge Meadow 5 years ago.
Yeah, I think on my almost first day at Judge Meadow 5 years ago, I think the first thing we did was we gave every member of staff a postcard and asked them to write down what the school meant to them and what was important to them. So I think, yes, you have your ideas, you have your personal vision, but everything you do is built on teamwork and so Judge Meadow, and I don't say it glibly, we talk about being kind, respecting each other, being organised and disciplined, working hard, being proud of who we are, and they weren't my words, they were the words of the staff that work at the school, and also the staff, I think, at Judge Meadow who live in the community, and also the students.
Yeah, and I really like how you're combining, not just talking about staff working together, but you're also working with governors as well, you're also working with parents as well. It is a collective, so I like that analogy that it is a village, right, and they're raising that, so that's really good. And, to you, Jason, why is it important to engage parents in the broader community in the education process?
It's a partnership, isn't it? So
yeah.
I think, in terms of educating young people, wanting young people to be successful, to be good, rounded citizens, to be successful in life, to have good exam results, etc., is, yes, you spend 7 hours a day at school, you spend a significant amount of time. When school and home work together, when we're in partnership, when we're all saying the same messages and doing the right things, that's when children are most successful. So we're really keen at Judge Meadow to listen to parents, to listen to our community, and also try and get better at it. I think it's one of the things I've not necessarily was my strongest point. In fact, shout out to you, Saiful. So I think our cultural day that we've been doing for the last 2 or 3 years has been fantastic in terms of celebrating our community.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a partnership. I think education is a partnership.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I always think as a teacher, I've been teaching for 21 years. This is my 21 year teaching. That's how long you've known me. I feel sorry for you for that.
That flew by, that 21 years, didn't
Yes, it certainly did. I lost all my hair. I had hair when I first met you, but now it's all gone.
And mine went grey.
Yeah, and yours went grey. But I mean, I look back at, and I think over the 21 years of all the students that I've taught, I think I can track that almost, I would say majority of all the students who have been successful and one of the biggest reasons why they've been successful is because they had that support at home. They had their parents backing them up, whether it be, sending them off to get extra tuition because they were struggling in a certain subject because that's the feedback that they got from the school, or they just literally sat down with their kid at home and made sure that the homework was done and helped them be organised. And I think that's really important. And would you agree, Brian?
Oh, absolutely. I think working with our parents is key to success of any school, and sometimes that's when things aren't going well. Working through those issues, working through those problems. side by side, building trust on both sides, I think is incredibly important. And there's all sorts of things we do in school to support that, and also to help parents understand what's going on in school, because it's complicated. It's probably different to their own schooling in many cases.
Yeah.
So all that work with parents is incredibly important.
Yeah, I mean, going on from my experience as a head of year, I was usually on the front line of the school talking to parents. What my philosophy have always been to bring the parents in, have a face-to-face conversation, and try and forge positive relationship with them, so that we can work, because it is an incredible partnership, and it has to be a supportive and collaborative partnership to work with these parents. Because at the end of the day, I want you all listeners to understand that, well, all of us educators here in this room here, we got the same ambition and goal as you do as parents. That is that we want to see your child succeed, right? So I got a question to ask you, Brian, specifically. So how does your school support children's mental health and well-being? Considering the challenges that young people face today with like social media and things like that, right?
I mean, it's a really good question, Saiful, and it's probably the biggest challenge that we face, and the one that concerns me most, how we support our children through that. All the other things we do in terms of their outcomes, great exam results and so on, are important, but that won't happen if we don't get the mental health support right. So we've stepped it up this year to even a greater degree than we've done in the past. We do a lot of educating with children around safety and parents. We've got a parental event coming up next week, the week after next, where this is the topic that we're going to talk about, and it's about parents being aware of what's going on in their children's lives, us being aware of what's going on in their lives. There's an awful lot of pressure, I think, on children and on parents in society at the moment. I mentioned earlier that I didn't think the effects of the pandemic have completely gone yet, and certainly in terms of school attendance, that's clearly the case. I think there's a lot of stresses on young people. I think phones and social media are a huge problem, and I'd really appeal to any parents that are listening to take control of that in your child's lives. My children are older, and they missed that time. They were older by the time they got smartphones, but a smartphone opens up a world to children.
Absolutely.
that may not be a good world, and they may be interacting with people or content that you really don't want them to interact with. So I think all of us, teachers, support staff, parents, have a real responsibility to understand that. It's no good me saying, well, I'm not interested in social media, so I won't get involved. I have to understand that so that I can monitor what's going on in school. I'd urge all parents to be checking those phones regularly, to be removing the phone before bedtime so children get a good night's sleep, because that's a key element of good mental health, is a proper night's sleep.
You're talking about sleep, right? The recommendation for a teenager, right, is they need to get at least 12 hours sleep, so 12 to 8 hours sleep. But I think three of us can agree that how many bleary-eyed children do we see walking through our doors in the morning? And you can tell, you know what, you've been on your phone all night, you've been messaging all night, you've been watching YouTube video all night, you've been on TikTok all night. And they say, yeah. And I'm like thinking, my goodness, the parents really need to sort of like get a bit of a grip on this. And I'm telling you now, listeners, from my personal experience, I have a younger brother who's 10 years old, who's 10 years younger than me, rather. And let me tell you something, to control his addiction to using the internet at that time, because them days we didn't have smartphone. As a big brother, I was responsible, and I turned off the internet, because otherwise he would have been on the computer and he would have been playing Championship Player Manager, because that's what he was obsessed with, and he needed to be online to use that. But you know what? I was responsible as a big brother to turn the internet off so that he could get a good night's sleep. And you know what? He may have hated me for it, but he's very successful now, I can proudly say, because he has worked hard, but I did my bit to keep him focused.
Absolutely, and that sounds absolutely perfect. I think it's not just about phones, though. I think it's about empowering our children to say when there's a problem, because I think sometimes children can have a problem and it can appear huge in their eyes, even if to us it may not appear huge. So I think it's vital that we empower children to tell us as parents, as teachers, what they're feeling, and that we respond and we do something about that. And I think that's our job in schools, but it's also the job of the whole community, that children feel they can talk to us if there's a problem, there is help available, and that we're signposting them to that help, we're helping them ourselves. But the big thing is they tell us when things aren't right, and it may not be obvious that things aren't right. You know, there may be few signs. The only signs will be when our students or our children tell us that there's an issue. So we really have to encourage them to do that and remind them repeatedly to do that.
Absolutely. Jason?
I think exactly the same, as well as empowering children to tell us when things are not going right so that we're informed and we can support. I think all schools in the city have amazing pastoral teams that work incredibly hard to look after young people. But I would also urge parents, if something's going wrong, and something goes wrong in every family from time to time, talk to your school. Let us know.
Absolutely.
Let us know what's going on, and then we can help, then we can support. There's nothing to be ashamed of. Things go wrong in every family from time to time. Times are tough. If you talk to your school, I'm confident that the professionals there will do their best to support you and your children.
And I think this is a message to all the parents out there listening. The pastoral team in school is a lot different to what it was, say, for when I was a child at school. It's a lot more supportive, it's a lot more nurturing. But, we do genuine, and I'm speaking as a former head of year, we do build genuine friendship and relationship with the parents. And it is a collaborative approach. We're here to support you. It could be something very trivial, but if it bugs you, then it's something that you should talk to the school about. That's what I would say, coming from that. We have a question that's come online. So one question said, if you were to give advice to a new head teacher, what would you say? Right, so I don't know who wants to...
Don't do it.
I was thinking that. Don't do it, 1 mile. Right, but
I'm joking. It's a wonderful job, and I love it. I think offering advice to a new head would be listen. Be confident of who you are, and it's a privilege. It's a privilege. You are a leader in a school, and you are a leader of a community. That shouldn't be taken lightly.
Absolutely, I agree with that. Brian, do you want to add?
Absolutely. The job is a complete privilege. At times it makes you want to tear your hair out, but the job is an absolute privilege. And I wouldn't. I'm so proud that I've been given that opportunity. For a new head, learn about your school, get to know people, learn about your school. Don't sit in your office. I think that's fairly obvious. Yeah. But spend some time looking and listening before you jump in and act.
I would say. Any new head coming in, take the advice and also reach out to other heads as well, because I feel that all the heads, they all talk to each other. There is a collaborative approach. It's not necessarily a competition, but everybody is working toward the same goal, and there's a lot of sharing good practice that do happen in Leicester.
I certainly remember 5 years ago, and obviously I work for part of a multi-academy trust, but I remember coming to Leicester 5 years ago as a head, meeting Brian as part of the EIP, and I found city heads really welcoming, really supportive, only too happy to sit down with you to give you some advice and guidance. And I think as a head, that's part of your role, is to try bring others on and support others when they come in. And I certainly felt a warmth from city heads when I arrived in the city taking on a new job.
That's brilliant. The second question just said that. Is being a head teacher for everyone? I'm going to answer that because I'm not a head, and I'm going to say no. Actually, my answer is going to be, I wouldn't say it's for everyone, but I'm going to say that you need to learn the limits of myself. So I'm also learning. Can I be a head one day? Personally, I don't think so right now, but I am on a journey. Right, but I think as long as someone is willing to invest in themselves and invest in their skill set and grow as a person and grow their skill set, someone, they can go on that journey where eventually they can be ahead. I don't know if you two guys want to add to that.
I mean,
not necessarily talking about me, but just as a general person.
I never expected to be ahead, and I was many years into my career before I decided to have a go at it. As you say, Saiful, if you grow your skill set and work at it, never say never, I think.
Absolutely. Brian?
Saiful, I think
Sorry.
you make a great head. No, I
Thank you. You do need to say that because you're my line manager.
I also certainly did not come into teaching thinking I'd be ahead. And in answer to the question, can anyone be ahead? I'm sure they can, but I often ask people who say they want to be a head teacher why, because I think sometimes people just want to be head teacher because that's where they think they should go, and I don't think that's the right reason to go
Yeah,
there.
that's right. You have to have the right reason for doing it.
Yeah, don't just want it because you think it's top of the shop. Want it because you're going to be good at it.
Yeah, and also I also have to say, being a head teacher is hard work, and I'm just saying this, seeing it from the outside. I see the head teachers and also the senior leaders coming in, and they're coming in early at 7:30, 7 o'clock, and usually they're the last people to leave the school building. So I'm not saying that they don't have a social life, they probably do, but they work incredibly hard because they are deeply, deeply committed to the successes of every student that's under their care. And the last question, very interesting question, can head teachers be replaced by artificial intelligence? Oh gosh, I don't even know how to even respond to it. Do you guys have this?
No.
I say no.
No.
And I agree no. Because at the end of the day, I think being a head teacher or being a teacher involves you having this particular skill called emotional intelligence. You really do need to have that. Artificial intelligence will not have that. Jason, I'm going to ask you a question now. So can you share maybe a recent success story or achievement about some of your students or faculty members, or something that you're particularly proud of?
I'm proud of everything that goes on at Judge Meadow most days of the week, but I think if I'm looking back over last year, because of the time of year, we've just had results. I think that the Judge Meadow Maths Department produced some, amazing work, and students' outcomes have been really, really successful, really, really good for a number of years now. Last year, even better than the year before. They were in the top 25% of the country last year. Same for English, same for science. It's not just about results, of course it isn't, but you happen to ask me this question just after GCSE results have come out.
True.
And I'm really proud of... I always say I never talk about results, and I end up talking about results. But it's not the outcome, it's the process that gets you there. But I am very proud of colleagues across the school have done, but English, Maths and Science is kind of the core, and I'm really proud of what those departments have achieved this year.
Brian,
it's 2 weeks after results day, so yeah, I'm very proud of our results this year. They were the best ever in terms of student progress. And I saw the work that went into that from the staff, and it's such a committed staff at Moat. The year group had some incredible challenges, including COVID when they were year 8 and 9, and did incredibly well. So I'm very proud of that set of results. It is about more than the results, but those results are important. Those children are going on to sixth form and apprenticeships and university, and those results are life-changing, so they are incredibly important. But we had Ofsted last year. I'm incredibly proud of the Ofsted report we obtained. It was almost warm from Ofsted, almost warm. But it was a lovely report, and that was the work of not just teachers, support staff, that was everybody, and children putting together our support of our governors. So we were incredibly proud of that last March. It was really heartening to read that report.
I think, one thing that you need to, and I'm saying this as someone in the community, right, not just as a teacher at Judge Meadow, but we talk about success stories. Let's think about the individual success stories of students who have left your schools, right? Whether at that time, whether you were a head or you were a teacher at that school, they've gone on to do some incredible things, right? So I can tell you, Brian, for example, you have a former Moat alumni who is running a multinational company in Malaysia. Right? So I've always told him he needs to come to Leicester. When he comes to Leicester, he has to meet with you. I am working on arranging that because I want him to do an inspirational talk to your kids, right? Because he came from a humble background, lived on Gutlaston Street, but he went to Moat, right? And now his company is doing... reclamation of land from the sea.
Okay.
Right. So he.
I'd love to meet him.
Yeah, and he also has a company that builds ships.
Right.
Right. So I'll introduce you to him. right? Just need to arrange because he's always busy. He's going all over the world. And, you know, even at Judge Meadow, there's been also many success stories as well. Just on Friday, we met a young lady, didn't we, Jason? Right? And that young lady, she came to us the day before she was getting married because she came to pick up her little brother. But she told she was saying, oh, yeah, by the way, I'm getting married. Oh, congratulations. But we found out that she just got her pilot license, right? And I thought that was awesome, wasn't it, Jason?
Absolutely, 100%. And there's lots of alumni at Judge Meadow that have gone on to do amazing things. And we want to actually reach out a bit more and bring those people back in so that they can inspire current students. So students can see that, you know, people exactly the same as them, that live in the same streets as them, that walk the same walk as them, have gone on to do amazing things in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, look, I'm going to shout out here Judge Meadow 50-year anniversary this year, and we are planning an event in July. So any former Judge Meadow alumni, please keep a lookout on our social media because we are planning a huge event in July. All right. The Year 6 transition process is coming upon us. All right. What sort of advice would you give to parents choosing the schools?
I think parents have a opportunity to, obviously they'll look at exam results, they'll look at Ofsted reports, you know, along the same as Moat, we had an Ofsted last year, got a good report which we're proud of. I don't think that tells you everything about a school. My advice would be to go to all of the open days, to look around the schools, to talk to the staff, and then to choose Judge Meadow.
Just gonna shout it out there that Judge Meadow open day is on the Thursday the 21st of September. When is open day for Moat, Brian?
It's Thursday the 28th of September from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. and all your listeners would be very welcome.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd give the same advice. You're obviously going to read the Ofsted reports, look at exam results, but go and visit the school, go to the open evening. But if you can, go and visit when the school is running and walk around the school. You can feel an awful lot from a school just from walking through it. You know, I always think within 5 minutes of going through the front door of a school, I think you can have a good feel for what it's like.
Yeah.
And the other thing is talk to people in the community. You know, talk to people whose children go there. What's their experience? If you know someone who's in current year 7, what was it like for them when they started? You know, are they happy? Have they been well looked after? Those questions are incredibly important. So I think parents can do a lot of informal research. Yeah. But there's nothing that beats going and walking through the school.
Yeah, I agree. I think all the local secondary schools not just have an open evening, but they also have an open morning or afternoon where they can actually come in. And we in the past have always, you know, welcomed parents to come in and actually see the running of the school because honestly, that's where you see the real school in action. Right? And I also think, you know, at the day, go with your heart, go with your gut feeling, right? And go with what you feel is right for yourself as well, right? Okay, and moving on to my last bit now, and I'm going to ask this question for both of you, right? So we're talking about the future now, right? What challenges do head teachers face? What can you see that might be challenges in the future? Maybe we're talking about funding, maybe we're talking about social challenges, things like that, or are you guys just like day by day just working hard and staying committed to your vision?
I think funding will always, you know, you always want as much resources and funding as you can in order to try and provide the best education. So I think that funding is always going to be an issue. I think, as Brian mentioned earlier, social media, phones, artificial intelligence are also things that, you know, that make the job more complex. But ultimately, I think educating children is educating children. And
Take it, yeah,
Brian, help me out here.
Well, I mean, you are trying to, as a head, you're trying to look forward. You're very involved in the day-to-day, but you're trying to look forward. Funding's a big issue. You know, I think every head is looking at deficits or potential deficits and worrying about that. I think staffing, recruitment's an issue. You know, we're not training enough teachers as a country for all sorts of reasons. We're not doing that, and that's a real issue for schools. That when you go out and you're looking for staff, getting good quality staff is not necessarily easy, and I think that's not something that can be addressed in Leicester. That's a national issue, and you know, a debate that needs to be had about what's important in society and what do we want to put our limited resources into. So those things worry me. The mental health situation, as I've mentioned already, really concerns me. So they're probably the big things that are on my mind. There may be things from left field that turn up that we haven't even thought of yet as well.
But I think, you know what, it's safe to say that whatever challenges do come up, I think both of you who will be more than capable of rising up to the challenge, because we trust you as leaders of our school and leaders of our little community of the school that you run. And I think it's safe to say, and I'd like to think that all the parents listening will feel confident in the skills that these two head teachers have. So as we conclude this enlightening interview with Brian and Jason, the principal of secondary school at Moat as well as Just Meadow, there's powerful messages that resonate deeply. It's a reminder that the future of our community, our city and our world lies in the hand of our educators. Brian and Jason have shown us that leadership in education goes beyond the administrative role. It's about nurturing potential, fostering resilience and igniting the flame of curiosity in our students. It's a reminder that every child has the potential to achieve greatness if given the right support and guidance. So we're not talking about just us as teachers, but as parents, it's all got to be a real partnership. So let us carry this message forward, not just as parents or educators, but as a collective society. Let's recognize and celebrate the dedicated educators who are shaping the minds and characters of our future leaders. So let's champion a system that values innovation, inclusivity and empowerment within our schools. So I really want to thank Jason and Brian for coming in and spending a lovely Sunday afternoon. I'm sure you had absolutely nothing better to do, right? But spend time with me on this fantastic radio station. The journey to a brighter, more promising future starts in the classroom, and it's in the hand of these passionate leaders. Today's conversation leaves us with the understanding that education isn't just a path to knowledge, it's a path to a better world. I just want to end with do you have like any final last messages or comment that you want to say to your listeners, to parents and maybe to potential parents who may be choosing your school? We've got about 3 minutes left, so I'll start with you, Brian.
Yes, to parents that are choosing our school, please come and see us. Moat's a wonderful school. We're very proud of what we do, and we've talked about students doing amazing things when they leave, and that's across the board. This is our SEND students, this is our EAL students who perhaps don't speak the best English to start with, and we teach them. This is maybe to children that come with all sorts of issues to us, and we look after them and nurture them and give them those excellent outcomes. But please come and look, have a walk around the school. As I say, that's the best way to get a feel for a school.
I say I'm going to come and open you, then.
You'd be very welcome, Saif.
Thank you. I'm just going to come. I'm welcome with the kid, but I've not actually been to Moat, right, since you've been ahead. I know you've invited me many times, right, to come, but I just want to come.
Saiful, just remember where you work.
I do work at Just Meadow. Just Meadow's in my heart, right, and that's the only school that I've ever worked at, so I'm not going to leave Just Meadow. Don't worry. But just letting you know, I'm teaching IT this year, by the way, Brian. So
you'll be very welcome, Saif. Sorry, Jason.
We were just saying I could teach 2 subjects nowadays.
So Saiful, can we get a shout out for the
please
the Judge Meadow Fun Day where we
yes, absolutely. I haven't forgotten about that. Judge Meadow Fun Day is on the 16th of September, 12 p.m. till 5 p.m. We've got a bouncy castle, we got face painting, we got mending, we got all sorts of food stalls, we got a barbecue going on, and we got a football tournament. Guys, get yourself down there. Right, keep an eye on our social media. Updates will be there. And Jason, do you want to add anything about?
Also, just we have got our open evening. Is that Thursday?
That's Thursday, the 21st of September.
So, like Brian, I think the most important thing to do is to go to the school. Yes, read the Ofsted reports. Yes, look at the results. But go to the school, see how it feels. And also, go during the day. Go and see it in operation. I love showing people around Judge Meadow. I'm incredibly proud of the school.
Yeah, and I've got to say, do come and visit the school on a day-to-day basis when it's running on a day, because there you get a real insight. And I think when parents come in and they actually see the school in action, their perception of how a school is run compared to their memories of how a school run is, changes drastically. They walk in and they think, wow, this is what education is like now, because it's not like what it was 20 years ago when I was at school. honestly, do come in. That's my biggest advice to all the parents. Go in and see the school in action. Go to Moat, go to Just Meadow, then go to the rest, right? But I'm not allowed to say that. But it's
Don't worry
okay.
about the rest.
I'm not going to worry about the rest. But anyway, this concludes our show today. Thank you so much, Brian and Jason, for coming. Thank you to the producers who are sitting in the background, right, running the show, right? But the mission to inspire, educate, and empower never ends. Until next time, stay committed to the vision of a brighter future through education. Take care, everyone, and keep making a difference.